thumbs up. Like against oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Is it working now?
Nope. It's going to take a couple minutes for that.
Yeah.
Just give us another minute.
Yes. So should we go ahead and say the pledge of allegiance, or?
Yeah, no, you can.
Okay. All right. Can we all please stand? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting for January 15, 2019. Just some announcements that you should silence your cell phones and any other electronic devices, including everyone here on the dais. And also that the audience members may be audio or videotaped or video recorded by third parties during the public meeting. The first item on our agenda is... Excuse me? Okay, thank you. First item on our agenda is a presentation from Mr. Fisher from PySports regarding an update on the Sunoco America 2 project. Well, actually it says 2, but 3 update.
Okay, I'll just talk about it. So the current matter that I'm here to comment on is a recent complaint filed by the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement of the PUC against Sunoco regarding the Mariner 1 pipeline, which is it's the original 8-inch pipeline that runs through this township and used to carry gasoline and has been converted to carry liquid gases through the pipeline down to Marcus Hook. And so the current complaint is that there was a leak of that pipeline out in Berks County, and they did some testing to determine the cause of the leak, and the PUC is now saying that the testing that was done was insufficient, and it revealed that Sunoco's testing protocols are insufficient and not in compliance with existing codes. So it seeks to have them update their protocols and do some retesting on the Mariner 1 pipeline to determine if there's any corrosion or if there's going to be any other potential problems with that pipeline. The issue for the township is whether to try to intervene in that matter. So we have actually prepared a petition to intervene in the matter on the basis that, a couple of different bases actually. One is that the township hired a safety consultant, Rick Kupowitz, to test that Mariner 1 pipeline a few years back, and he was given materials from Sunoco regarding its testing, regarding the characteristics of that pipeline, and we want to make sure that the information that we received was compliant with the code protocols that are required of Sunoco, and to the extent that they're required to change or do any of that testing again, we want to make sure that Rich can get that information and make sure that this township, or at least a portion of the pipeline running through this township, is safe for the residents. The other basis is that we have sort of a unique expertise with respect to Sunoco's pipelines, given the prior proceedings that we were involved in, and we've hired a consultant to check out the pipeline in this township and can sort of lend to the public interest with respect to this specific action. So right now, the next step is to file that petition to intervene in the matter, and then get involved in the proceedings and see where they go from there.
I'll make the motion that we in fact do intervene.
And I'll second that motion.
Do we have any public comment? Hearing none. Oh, excuse me. Yes, Mr. Casey, come up to the podium.
Hi. Do you? What is the nature of the intervention? Do you have that laid out yet, or you're just doing preliminary filing for that? Like, what is the purpose of the intervention? I've intervened,
Right.
and I'm waiting to hear back from the PUC on that matter. I actually have here Sunoco's denial on why I shouldn't be in it, which is actually pretty amusing. What did you guys, has the township or your firm laid out the basis for the intervention?
We have prepared a draft petition to intervene. It essentially summarizes what I just explained.
So there's no, like, you're not taking a stance, you're just intervening at this point to see what comes?
Well, the stance would be that we want to make sure that Sunoco's protocols are compliant with the requirements of the PUC, and to the extent that they aren't, if they're updated, if they're required to update them and do retesting, we want to get the information from the retesting if it pertains to this township, so that Rick Cooperwitz can look at it and make sure that his prior assessment of the safety of the Mariner 1 pipeline was accurate. So if the information changes and it changes his opinion, then that's why we want to be there to get that information. If we don't intervene, then we may not be privy to that information.
Right.
It may be confidential.
Right. Well, that's pretty much why I'm doing the same. So, all right, thank you.
Yes, Dr. White.
West Goshen. Is this the same line that was being repurposed? This is a different line?
This is the original line that existed, and they did change it over from one type of fuel to another.
Okay, so the repurposed one, that was the 12-inch line, right?
It was the, I thought it was the 8-inch line.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I mean, technically, they did repurpose the old 8-inch line.
Right.
So this is the first line that they put into service now 3-4 years ago.
Right.
The 12-inch line was just repurposed in the last 8 months or so.
Right.
So
Okay.
there's no
Just
repurpose.
connect
But
two
this is
parts.
the original one, the 8-inch, the old line.
Okay, thank you.
There's two repurposed lines, I guess, to answer your question. This is the first one.
Right.
Okay, also, another question. When they do the interconnections to repurpose the lines, those, when they're tapping in to the old line, I guess you'll be making sure that those protocols will be safe.
This complaint doesn't relate to any kind of connection. It actually relates to corrosion.
Corrosion.
It relates to whether the original old pipeline that was laid in the, I think, 1930s is corroding, specifically in the Berks County area where this leak occurred, but then potentially throughout the whole Commonwealth.
Okay, and specifically due to age or due to other factors? Because Mr. Cooperwitz's report said age can't be looked at in and of itself.
That's above my pay grade, but
Okay.
I think it would be various factors
Okay.
that Mr. Cooperwitz would know better than I.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other comment? Hearing none. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 5, this is Linda Rooney, who is going to give us an overview of the work that she's been doing on the township's revitalized social media and electronic newsletter initiative. Welcome.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for welcoming me. I've had the pleasure of meeting with Derek and Casey here with the township, and we're very excited to start a digital communication and marketing plan with the Township of West Goshen. So I just wanted to explain a little bit about what we are going to be doing and how it's going to work and the timing. And I will be brief because I know you have a lot on your agenda. So, press something on your computer, I think. I'm going to have to stand a little closer here. So I basically just want to introduce digital communications and how they work in today's society. Previously, advertising was a lot of ads that were placed out there, sort of like Mad Men is what you can think of. Advertising has changed and marketing has changed, communications have changed. Everybody uses their cell phones, their laptops. People want things quickly and timely, and that's where digital communication comes in. It's really inbound marketing. It's more about providing information to people that they need in a timely manner. And the good thing about municipalities is that your audience is very engaged already. They want to know what West Goshen is doing, and they'd like to know it quickly and conveniently on their phones or their computers or their iPads. So we were talking to Casey and Derek, and I'm pleased to meet the Board of Supervisors tonight as well. And we were talking about what kind of things we can accomplish together and how we can get West Goshen's messaging out in a timely manner to the residents and visitors to West Goshen. One of the issues, a few of the issues that are happening right now is the avenues of online communication aren't being utilized effectively, including emails, the website, and social media. So that's going to be part of our plan, is to get a more robust social media, a more robust email list of residents and visitors that will have some timely information posted out on social media and through an emailed newsletter about things that are going on in West Goshen. We're going to try to increase the audience engagement. One good thing about social media is there will be comments. There's going to be a lot more interaction, which is what happens when municipalities go more with a digital plan. So what we were thinking that we're going to be starting within the next few months is there will still be a quarterly paper newsletter. That's something that the West Goshen Township feels is important to have it in racks that you can just grab. It'll have the articles. It'll be very similar to what you're used to, but we will be adding monthly emails with a lot more timely information about events, things that are happening, township improvement, zoning news, relevant information about snow removal, trash, things that really are more timely on a monthly basis. There will be social media postings referring back to things that are in the newsletter, and we're going to try to drive traffic to the website, news blog, and social media. Media Bureau does a newsletter. I'm not going to try to click on this because this clicker doesn't work from over here, but you can go to the Media Bureau, look at some of their past issues. They're ones that we have done for them, and it seems to be working. We have a huge increase in engagement. Our posts are reaching between 10 and 15,000 people, whereas before we had about a list of 130 people when we first started. So a little bit of the strategy behind this. We're thinking that the first e-newsletter and a spring PDF newsletter, we have a tentative date of March 22nd. The action items for the first newsletter, and I'll be working with the Board of Supervisors for most of this, is we'll be working on a preliminary outline for the e-newsletter, content generation, pictures. We can always use pictures. We're big on adding active pictures and video to our publications. And then we'll be working on a brief monthly newsletter draft, the blog site, which is actually embedded in the website, and that's going to store our news articles. If we're introducing a new board member, or we're introducing a new fire personnel or police personnel, we'll put that in the blog site. It'll be a nice article that you can just click on and see whenever. And we'll be taking baseline measurements. So we'll be looking at the website, social media, your email list, and we'll have all of our baseline measurements, and we'll provide a monthly analytics for the board. The advantages of digital marketing: not many municipalities do this well, and residents get so excited when they see a digital newsletter or Facebook posts or information on a much more timely basis. We're finding that you already have an engaged audience, and when we start with digital marketing, the residents become even more engaged. It's actually very exciting to see it. And the other plus is that West Goshen, the Board of Supervisors, will be able to get information out in a timely manner, and they'll sort of be the ones owning the messaging so that things will be accurate, as complete as possible, and approved before they all go out. Now the procedure. So we do have a quick timeline. This is mostly for the board. The monthly e-news will be the monthly. The monthly e-news. Usually, what I'll do is send a request to the board and community groups 3 weeks before the publication date. 1 week before the publication date, I will also send a reminder to everyone to get their articles in. The due date is pretty strict. Things will get dropped in the newsletter within like 2 days, and then I'll be emailing the board for their approval of the newsletter before it gets published. And that turnaround time for approval is about 24 hours. So things happen quickly, but they happen in an organized fashion. So, but basically, that's what I had today. Does anybody have any questions?
Linda, I just had a comment. I know you talked about there's going to be still a PDF version and a hard copy of the newsletter. Yeah. That's going to be an opt-in, so that's not automatically coming to anybody anymore. So that's one of the reasons we did this, is we really want to try to shift to all digital. So you're going to have to opt in, and we'll have an option for that on the website eventually.
Right.
But I just wanted to make everybody aware that it's not automatically coming in to everybody anymore.
Right. We'll have a sign-up form on the website, so spread the word about that. We'll be posting the sign-up form on social media for West Goshen Township, and it's going to be really easy to sign up for this emailed newsletter. And you'll get it in your inbox every month, and then the PDF version every quarter will be posted on the website. So there will be a sign-up form on the website, and we'll also be asking you to sign up in social media. So, any other questions?
So, I'm sorry. So the quarterly one that we get now, you're not going to send out hard copy anymore?
You can opt in.
You can opt in.
Opt in to receive it.
Yeah, you can receive it if you'd like.
A lot of people don't have.
Yeah, so we'll still have the quarterly one. But, I mean, the good thing is, like events that are coming up, we can post to social media right away. So we're not going to be missing events in a quarterly newsletter. They'll also be, available digitally. They're on the calendar on the West Goshen website. So it's just, it's a different avenue of informing people.
I'd just like to expand on this point. In the next newsletter that gets mailed out, if it's possible to have an opt-in postcard for people to send back, because if they don't have access now, to have it on the website is not going to help anyone who doesn't have access. Yeah. So if we could somehow figure out how to put a postcard into the mailer so that people can opt in and mail it back.
we're actually going to do a separate postcard entirely because we're not so sure. So the last hard copy for the township probably went out already. So the next newsletter will be the digital one. So we plan on doing a postcard within the next month because exactly what you just said.
So there won't be another hard copy, Gwen?
No, and another mass distribution of the hard copy will not happen again. But it will go out to people who make the request to have a hard copy instead of using the digital. And the postcard's intended to alert people that they have that option now. Do you have another question?
Oh, I just thought I had a question. Can you explain a little bit, are residents going to have direct access to messaging to members of the board, for example, with questions or comments or concerns?
What we found happens usually is via social media, they comment, and then we'll be monitoring the comments. The Facebook and Twitter that will be set up are actually going to be going directly to the borough administration. Township, sorry, the township administration. So, you know, we'll be monitoring it and make them aware of anything that's coming in. We can't limit, like we can't say no comments. That just doesn't happen in social media. You can't do it. So there will be an opportunity to comment on postings, and there's always an opportunity to email into the township. Yeah.
Any other questions?
You mentioned that community groups would have access to the social media to be able to, or the newsletter, to be able to put information. What does that mean?
So what we do is we send an email 3 weeks before the due date, first to the borough supervisors and administrators here in the township. And we'll say to them, like, here's a draft outline. And then amongst us, we'll decide on which articles are going in. But we also recommend, and we probably will, email community groups, community leaders. So, like if you have an environmental advisory council, or, you know, right now I'm getting a list of those from Derek. And we'll email them as well and say, your news and events, you know, can also be included in this newsletter. So anybody that plans events, we'll be in contact with them.
If there are no other comments, I'd like to thank Ms. Rooney for being here this evening.
Thank you.
So the next item on our agenda is for discussion and possible approval of the final subdivision plan for 14,722 square foot lot consolidation for the West Goshen Sewer Authority at 620 Dowling Avenue.
Okay, this is a very simple lot consolidation plan. The Dowling Avenue is here. This is the existing pump station site here. The Sewer Authority also owns this piece of ground here. They are not connected, which makes this pretty much useless. So the proposal is to do a land swap with Aqua, which owns the entire reservoir area here, so that this portion of the property will be changed over to Aqua, and an equivalent portion of property adjacent to the pump station property will become Sewer Authority property. So it's basically a land swap to get the two pieces of property owned by the Sewer Authority adjacent to each other so they can be combined to facilitate expansion to the Dowling pump station. And that's it. It's a one-page plan.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make the motion that the subdivision application be approved.
I will second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any public comment? Are you saying yes, Dr. White? Oh. Any questions or comments by the board? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Item number 7 is a discussion and possible approval of a right-of-way use agreement between West Goshen Township and Crown Castle for various DAS, otherwise known as Distributed Antenna System installations in West Goshen Township, and authorization to begin work to amend existing township telecommunications ordinance. Who will speak to this?
I can.
Okay, thank you.
So in the latter part of 2017, Crown Castle had approached township staff, and I was brought into the conversation that they wanted to install various DAS distributed antenna systems on various streetlights, utility poles, etc. within the township. And in order to do so, they had asked that the zoning ordinance that had previously been put in place that addresses wireless communication facilities, specifically distributed antenna systems within the township rights-of-way, that ordinance be amended to allow additional street rights-of-way for these facilities. And with that proposal to expand the streets where these could be located, they had also offered to enter a right-of-way use agreement with the township. We had worked very closely with Crown Castle and East Goshen Township, and they had offered this exact right-of-way use agreement with East Goshen Township. It is basically offering, similar to a cable franchise agreement, where the cable companies pay you for the use of your right-of-way. Crown Castle is offering to pay you for the use of your right-of-way to locate their facilities, and they're going to be paying you annual fees if they connect their facilities on streetlights or facilities in the municipal right-of-way that the township owns. Since this was negotiated or discussed, I should say, in 2017, there have been changes in the law, and it's actually very favorable for the township for Crown Castle to be offering to enter this type of an agreement. So we had sent a memorandum to the board explaining that we think it's a positive thing that Crown Castle is offering this to the township as far as additional compensation for the use of your facilities. I think there are representatives of Crown Castle here if anybody has questions, but the agreement has not changed in terms of what rights it offers to Crown Castle and what compensation they're willing to pay. There's also protections afforded to the township with respect to indemnification language, making sure they have appropriate insurance. There's language with respect to if the township needs them to relocate a facility. It addresses those provisions as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but again, this is a favorable agreement. It will serve as a source of revenue, albeit not a lot, but additional sources of revenue for the township. And it's something that Crown Castle has asked the township to agree to enter. So that's the first part of it, in terms of the agreement.
Do I have enough motion by anyone on the board
I
to
would
approve?
I would move that we adopt the agreement with Crown Castle.
I'll second that.
Any public comment? Ms. Work, please come to the podium.
Hi, good evening, Margie Swart. Just wondering, the agreement does start off with now therefore for good and valuable consideration. And Ms. Camp did mention that it's nominal, but are you able to disclose what that is?
Yes, so they'll pay annual fees of $750 per the municipal facility that they install a DAS system on.
Okay, so can they add new poles and put their facilities on new poles, or is this just on existing poles?
So this agreement doesn't give them any permits or authority to install anything yet. This just says that if they get that approval and they then install the facilities, they will pay the township a fee. So there's a second component to it, and that's compliance with the zoning ordinance and getting the appropriate permits to install them in certain locations that the zoning ordinance calls out.
Okay, and I did Google it to see what they look like, but I had hoped maybe either the representatives would have had a slide or something to show exactly what this apparatus looks like on a pole. So that's all. Thank you.
I've also failed to mention, Mrs. Swartz, that they're, in addition to paying the annual fee per municipal facility that they use, they're also willing to pay 5% of the adjusted gross revenues for sales or for fees that they generate for the use of facilities within the township, they pay 5% of their adjusted gross revenue to the township. Again, similar to what you would see from a Verizon or a Comcast.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. White.
Good evening, Doug White, West Goshen Township. I think this might be good because if it helps communication with cell phones in the township, that would be good. And if it can be done in a tasteful manner where it doesn't detract from the surroundings and the environment, I think it'd be worked out and be a good thing. Thank you.
Mr. LeBlanc, I believe that we understand that the locations that have been already identified are not in residential areas.
Yes, every single look at the 9 locations are in commercial or industrial areas. There's no residential areas
At this time.
at this time.
Okay. Any other public comment? Hearing none. Everyone in favor, say aye. Aye.
The second part of that agenda item, as I mentioned, Crown Castle had asked the township to consider making minor adjustments to the zoning amendment or to the zoning ordinance that calls out the locations where they would be located. So the original draft of the ordinance that was amended, I believe in 2015, called out various streets, your major thoroughfares. So Pagley Pike, Westchester Pike, South Five Points Road, South High Street, South New Street, Route 322, and Pottstown Pike. They had asked the board to consider adding to that list. I don't have an amendment in front of you. They're just asking for authorization for us to work with them and at a future date to put an ordinance before you for consideration. Because it would be a zoning amendment, it would also have to be reviewed by your planning commission, and it would be sent to the county planning commission for comment.
Okay. Do I have a motion to authorize Ms. Camp to begin the work?
I'll move that the ordinance that the wireless ordinance amendment be adopted.
Not adopting it, we're just working for
Authorization.
to proceed to work with it.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Anyone else? Any other comments from the board? Any additional public comments? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Thank
Anyone
you.
opposed? All right, item number 8 is discussion and possible approval of resolution 4-2019, PennDOT TE-160 signalized intersection permit for the Route 202 Matlock Street intersection in regards to proposed Westrum Luxor apartment building at 956 South Matlock Street. Mr. Craig.
This is a standard PennDOT traffic signal application for modification of existing signal at the intersection of Matlock and 202. The purpose is to allow lengthening of left turn lanes on Matlock back to Willowbrook Drive, and to which is beyond the scope of this, but also to extend lanes back to the apartment complex. And change some of the signalization to provide a dedicated left turning movement off of Matlock Street. So this application just deals with the area just shy of Willowbrook, because that's as far as the traffic signal limits go, and the changes to the signals themselves. And it's just a standard application to PennDOT so that they can approve the changes.
I will make the motion to approve the resolution 4-2019.
I'll second
Any public comment? Yes, Chief, please.
I have a question with regard to that dedicated left turn. Is that for both directions on Matlock Street or just the one side?
Both sides.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, Ms. Ward. Could you please come forward?
Yeah.
I alluded to this a month or two ago, but could you confirm who's paying for this? The upgraded traffic signals? Okay. When does it come in when the developer would be responsible for submitting this application versus the township? I'm wondering if there's costs involved in
The
this.
developer can't submit the application. The application has to be submitted by the township because we own the traffic signals.
Okay, but Westrom is paying for the upgraded traffic signals?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please come forward, sir. I believe you've been before us before, but could you please state your name?
It's Jim Hutchison. Just a quick question, is that the Western Luxor apartment, is that the Agway complex?
Correct.
Oh, correct.
Any other public comments? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Yes, please come forward. Number 9 is going to be our reports for the month of December 2018. First, please report from Chief Lisa.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For the month of December, and I will give you yearly totals for the entire year of 2018, but for the month of December, the West Goshen Police responded to 1,766 calls for service. For the year, we handled 23,123 calls, 23,213 calls for service. We responded to 52 alarms for the month, 3 of which were valid. For the year was 712 alarms, and 58 of which were valid. And we investigated 20 reportable motor vehicle accidents, and for the year we investigated 300 reportable motor vehicle accidents. And we logged 18,707 miles on the patrol vehicles, and for the year we logged 259,579 miles on our patrol vehicles. Among other locations, selective enforcement was active on Airport Road, Grove Road, Montgomery Avenue, North New Street, South High Street, and Ellis Lane. And then our career development, our SWAT team continued their monthly training, as did our negotiators that are tied in with our SWAT team. Officer Holman conducted first aid training for the West Goshen Township Road Group, and Lieutenant Carolyn DeMedio attended a Forensic Science Institute dealing with internal matters, and our honor had their monthly training. And that again, thank you. If I may, the Chester County Emergency Services community lost a long-term friend yesterday, Chief James McGowan from the Downingtown Police Department, who retired about 2.5 years ago, but has been still very active on the Chester County Chiefs Executive Board and was spearheaded the Communications Division through the Department of DES, passed away suddenly yesterday morning at 62 years old. So I would just ask you to keep the emergency services, because he was active throughout the county. But Downingtown Borough, he was the chief for several years there, and he was the fire chief for the Downingtown Fire Department for many, many years. And he was involved with the emergency management coordination as well. So I would just ask that you keep the Downingtown Police Department and Chester County Emergency Services in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll have the Fire Marshal's report, including Goshen Fire Company and Good Fellowship Company, presented by Fire Marshal John Beswick.
Unfortunately, she's sick tonight.
He's not sick today, so John's doing double duty.
I'm going to give her a report real quick. So the month of December, Andrea did 20 inspections, 2 UNOs, 2 fire blocking, 5 sprinkler, 4 framing, 1 fire extinguisher replacement, 2 walkthroughs, 3 residential finals, and a fire line. She had 7 fire calls, she did 2 fire safety training, and had 1 fire drill.
And now you're speaking as John Beswick.
Yeah. And
Building officials report.
the building report for December was there was a total of 56 permits, 1 single-family dwelling, 10 building, 16 electrical, 3 fire protection, 7 HVAC, 6 plumbing, 5 roofing, and 6 use and occupancies, 1 sewer tapping connection, and 1 road occupancy. The estimated cost of construction was $1,712,499, and the permit fees were $29,735.56. Thank you.
Thank you. It's now time for the Board of Supervisors' announcements. Ms. Soda, do you have any announcements to make?
I do. As liaison to the Planning Commission, I attended the Planning Commission meeting dated January 8th, where they themselves had a reorganization and they appointed Julia Potts as chairperson, then Gino as vice chair.
Vito Gentleman.
John Hellman has been appointed secretary. And among other things, there was that discussion of the proposed West Chester University Overlay District by Tim Cassidy. So that was part of the meeting last week. Thank you.
I have an announcement that I'd like to share with having Dave Woodward come to the podium. Some of you may be aware that over the holiday time period that 5 Points Road, which runs north to south, which you're probably familiar with given where the township building is, underwent a major reconstruction because there was a sewer pipe failure of significant length, and they had to react in an emergency setting to repair it immediately. And I wanted Mr. Woodward to come and tell us a little bit about the story, what happened, because I think it's important that the Board of Supervisors, we'd like to acknowledge all of the folks from the police, sewer, streets administration, and others who participated in what was 2.5 days plus some when they had to come back and do additional work.
Yeah. We'll actually be out there tomorrow doing some paving, which is kind of odd. I've never paved with snow on the ground.
First for everything.
January 2nd, we got called for what was started out to be a complaint about an aqua leak. Turned out it was a sewer leak. We found what we thought was a blockage wasn't a blockage. The jet wouldn't clear it, so then we televised it. Found out there was a blockage, partial collapse in the pipe. So we dug down. We had to call in Rich Duraco Brothers. They came in to help us. It's a little out of our scope going that deep. So we found what we thought was going to be about a 10-foot repair turned into a 40-foot repair because we couldn't find good pipe to connect to. As we would dig back, the pipe would just fall. So we got it fixed. We were out there about 14 hours. Got it fixed, paved it in the next day, had the televised crew come out. They came out starting the following Monday. We were cleaning and televising to find the extent of the damage. We actually had more damage the following week. We spent the following Wednesday, Thursday out there with another long duration repair. Took out another 30 feet. And right now, we suspect about 650 feet needs to be replaced totally. There's another 150 feet that we believe can be lined, but we can't get in to really thoroughly clean it and televise it or we don't want to get in to thoroughly clean it and televise it until we have a contractor there, because we could, if it's as bad that far down the line as it is where the break is, we could cause more damage trying to inspect it. So we would rather be mobilized on site so that if we do have a problem, we can address it immediately. So that's where we stand. We're waiting on engineers' estimate and all. There's going to be a special meeting tomorrow night.
Dave, how old is the pipe, please suspect?
That pipe's actually original to the system. We believe it was put in 1958 to 1960. It actually is, the Ellis Lane pump station actually flows up through Coopersmith to Route 3 and then flows there, and it goes from the first manhole at Route 3. It then flows down 5 Points, works its way over to the plant. And it's a 14-inch, it's a main transmission line.
Dave, the 30 and the 40, did they connect when you were done?
No, there's a piece in between.
Oh, okay. And how far down are they?
We're averaging about 10-foot depth. But we've got numerous Pico, Verizon, we've got an 8-inch water main running right next to us. It's a very tricky dig.
Well, thank you for sharing that information with us. So the board would like to recognize and acknowledge and thank the following individuals for their service and their hard work and their successful completion and stabilization of the pipe. From the Streets Department, Mr. Paul McAvoy, Mr. Steyer, Mr. McNally, Mr. Boyce, Mr. Scruggs, Mr. Norsoff, Mr. Kendrick, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Gibbons, Mr. Ticknor, Mr. Triggers, and Mr. Berlani. From the Sewer Department, Mr. Moffa, Mr. Hardy, Mr. Leon, Mr. Halverson, Mr. Poppenfuss, Mr. Riley, Mr. Root, Mr. Clark, Mr. Duckenfield, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Longzero. From the Police Department, Officer Virgilio and Officer Myers. From Administration, Casey Lalonde and Dave Woodward. And the others, I understood from today that the East Goshen Public Works lent us some gravel.
150 tons of stone for backfill.
Yeah,
Plus,
because
for our emergency repair.
well, we extended the shower supplies on the first break.
Right.
So the second break, we hadn't had a chance to restock.
And DeRocco Brothers, and I have to apologize, I missed Mr. Otero and Mr. Bean from the Sewer Department. Thank you very much, everyone who participated. Yes, thank you, Maxine. It should be applauded. I'm always impressed and surprised and excited to hear how fantastic you guys work together. And it really is a high reflection of the character of the people who work here. So thank you. Now it's your turn. No, Supervisor Mr. Pielli.
Just a quick announcement from the Department of Parks and Recreation. I said it last month too, in case anybody wasn't here last month. Our next trip is to Broadway, and it's the Cher Show. Broadway's newest musical sensation is based on the life and music of the famous entertainer. 6 decades in show business. It's not Cher, it's about Cher. Just to make it clear. It came up to me.
That is true. That's true.
Be one of the first to see the Cher Show live on Broadway, spend free time in New York City, and have a memorable family-style Italian dinner at Carmine's. It's $195 per person. It's February 13th. The bus leaves here at 8 a.m. You'll get to New York and you'll have some free time starting at 11 a.m. 2 p.m. the show begins at the Neil Simon Theater. 5 p.m. we depart the theater for dinner at Carmine's. Anybody ever been to Carmine's? Yes. From New York, about 30 years ago. It's a great restaurant, really big servings. Okay, and at 7:30 you're departing from New York City. So please check it out on the website, folks. It sounds like a great opportunity. Thank you. That's it for me.
Township Manager, do you have any announcements?
I do not. Thank you.
That's got to be first. Mr. Craig, do you have any Township Engineers update on the stormwater?
Nothing tonight,
thank you. Can't even talk. Mr. Webb, any officers?
Thank you. I have enough for both of them. Just to let you know, after our action this evening with the agreement with Crown Castle, I met with them out in the hallway. They're formally withdrawing their validity challenge before the zoning hearing board and their variance applications before the zoning hearing board. Derek and I met with eCode 360, who is the township's, they do our codifications, they put our code online. Look within the next 4 to 6 months for a very awesome program that we're going to have here. It's an interactive zoning map that will work just like, if anyone's ever used Chesco views, it will work similar to that, only it will incorporate, if you click on a property, it will tell you all the information about that property from our zoning ordinance. So to give you the uses, parcel numbers, all of that. It's going to be a great addition to our website. So that's going to be in the next 4 to 6 months. The Township Zoning Hearing Board met last week to render a decision on the 21st Century Charter School. They did approve that with conditions. The 2 conditions that they placed on them were that they were allowed to have no more than 2 socialization events annually, and that students would only be allowed to visit the site for state-mandated testing. During the hearing, it was asked whether students would visit the site, and on a regular basis, the answer was no. However, the state does require them to do state-mandated testing, and they do have 2 socialization events. They do a cookie baking at Christmas, and then they do a picnic. So they were approved by the zoning hearing board. Mark will have the order out, and I'll have it this week or so, and then I'll share it We do have two upcoming hearings on February 27th. The first is 925 Bailell Drive. They're requesting relief from the rear yard setback of 30 feet. They do actually have a hardship in this situation. There is a sewer easement that runs behind their property. You can't build into an easement. Because of that easement, they only can meet 21.5 feet, and so they can't get to 30. The other thing is, this will have no bearing on anyone behind them because the rear of the property, which is also the front of the property in zoning standards, is 322. So it has no effect on anyone. So I would ask on that matter whether the board would like Kristen to become a party to the proceeding for that.
Is there a consensus to do that? Okay. No opposition.
The second application is for the Jirakian property for Greystone, and that is for a play sign to be installed at Pottstown Pike and Elm Avenue. We do not currently allow these type of signs in the R3 zoning district. I think we can touch this more next month because we have an ordinance before you to allow this same exact sign in the R3B zoning district, which is the section on Phoenixville Pike that they want to place this sign. So we can discuss that portion further next month as to whether the board wants to take a position on that application. Just an update, the rental inspection program started on January 1st. It's being received very well. To date, we're 15 days into the month and I've done 36 inspections so far. We are finding things, so it's not, and these aren't smoke detectors, aren't working, stuff like that. So the program is working and it's being received well. I will be bringing before the board 3 proposed ordinances. The first is an ordinance to allow cyber charter schools in certain districts. Chris and I are going to iron this out a little further. We'll bring this back to you guys next month to determine whether you want to proceed forward for sending it to the Planning Commission and having a hearing on that matter. The second ordinance will be special events. This came up simply because we have had issues in the past where we didn't know about something, like a run, where all of a sudden we're getting phone calls and being screamed at because someone's road has been shut down and they weren't notified and we didn't know about it. So we've always issued special events permits, but now we're having the ordinance will come into play to give a little more teeth to that. The final ordinance that I have not even started to draft yet, I was speaking to Kristen about tonight. Last Friday I attended my Zoning Officers Association meeting, and we are in need of an ordinance that deals with short-term rentals, Airbnb. There is case law, primarily out of Monroe County, that the courts have seen this as a use. Therefore, since it is a use, it needs to have a spot in your zoning ordinance. Because if you don't, they side with the applicant. So we will work on placing that in the ordinance. Furthermore, I was telling Derek, they say that these should be treated just as you treat long-term rentals. They want to see no discrimination, whether it's short-term or long-term. So we can, Kristen and I will work on that together.
Yeah.
I have nothing further.
I forgot to announce. Tonight we did have an executive session about 2 litigation matters. Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me. Oh, okay.
Going forward, for the staff announcements, could we have, whether it's the township manager or the appropriate staff member, just to give an update on the Woodlands at Greystone project, just how it's, just a monthly update on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, item number 14 is the approval of the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes for December 18th, 2018. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I guess that's.
Any comment?
I'm sorry, who's the second?
You and Chris time. He's closer. Casey's here now.
You're first.
Okay, any public comments on the township minutes from December? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All right, the next will be the approval of the Treasurer's Report dated December 31st, 2018 for the General Fund, the Sewer Revenue Fund, the Waste and Recycling Fund, and the Capital Reserve Fund, and the bills to be paid from these funds.
The motion will be paid the bills.
Second. Any public comment? So please come forward.
Thank you. I would like to thank whoever's responsible for putting the bills online. I noticed that started, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
That started in October, so I didn't realize that till last month. So hopefully I just have a couple questions, and it won't be a monthly thing, but do these bills come to the staff for approval already being approved by staff members? So are they recommending approval to you tonight, or are these bills left for the board to look through and ask questions?
They're left for the board to approve the checks to those vendors. So they get the list of vendors, the list of checks, they raise questions if there are any, and they approve the bills. I don't think we've ever had a check pulled here, at least in the last few years.
Other questions were always answered.
Yeah, before the meeting, exactly. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So staff, like there isn't a staff member, whether it's Jean or whether it's the township manager or whether it's department heads, the chief or whomever, actually approve the bills that you're seeing. You are the only approval.
All we're doing is putting the coding on the bill and approving the coding according to the budget, and the board approves the bills.
Correct.
Okay. That's where I think an audit or a budget committee would really come in helpful to the board. I noticed a couple bills for professional or engineering fees, specifically for Bishop's Lodge. Are those professional fees not in a separate account as far as an escrow account for development? It appeared that that's being paid out of a general fund or a prepaid fund?
That is correct.
Okay. So is that standard practice not?
We seek reimbursement from the developer.
Right. So I just see later on in the agenda that there's a resolution to accept $15,000 for an escrow fund. So when you got that $15,000 check, that's going into the general fund and not an escrow fund?
No, that is an escrow fund.
Okay.
Inspections and shop drawing reviews, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So what they're approving tonight for Bishop Lodge inspection is coming out of the general fund?
Which is then reimbursed from the developer, correct?
Okay. And there's a Pico Energy bill 11/3/18 to 12/6/18 for $43.55.51, and it's just the same amount twice. I just want to make sure that's not a duplicate payment.
We'll check.
It's twice.
I can see it right now.
Okay. And that's good. I'll touch base with maybe Jean later. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I believe we have a motion and a second.
Madam Chairman,
Oh,
just a
yes,
quick question.
yes, please.
I know we voted for approved bank depositories, and I remember that BBT was supposed to be eliminated eventually because they weren't chartered or something?
Not chartered in Pennsylvania, so we will be moving out that money to Santander or another one of our approved listed depositors soon. It takes weeks and weeks to get that done. Yeah, we've set up meetings with those other two banks.
So that's in the works?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I just saw BBT back.
Yeah, but it'll take several weeks for the new accounts to be set up at those other banks.
Thank you. That's all my question.
Okay, any other
Questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, item 16, discussion of a non-affiliated West Goshen Township Facebook page.
Per our two resolutions that were adopted in 2018, members of the can contact me and have an item put on the agenda. This is actually the first time anybody's availed themselves of that. I received 2 complaints about apparently a non-affiliated, what appears to be a township Facebook page. Are the fines here tonight? Oh, great. This isn't my discussion, so if you want to come up, describe the issue to the board. Thank you.
Hi, Police Fine. I became aware of a Facebook page titled West Goshen Township. And when I was looking at it early in January, I saw a lot of township logos, like a welcome sign for West Goshen, things like that. And there were some things on there, like remembering about Christmas tree removal and basic township-like information. But the most recent post seemed to be politically motivated. It was a sharing of a post for a Democratic candidate for supervisor. And I was concerned. I called Mr. Lalonde, maybe I called or emailed, asking why there was some politically motivated things on a township Facebook page. He indicated it had nothing to do with the township. And I thought it was important for the public to know about it, so I asked that it be put on the agenda. Interestingly enough, that night, or maybe the next day, a disclaimer was put on the Facebook page that said that it was a non-governmental affiliated Facebook page. So I'm not sure how that information circulated so quickly, but it now has a small disclaimer on it. But again, it is titled West Goshen Township, so it looks very much like a township page. So that was my concern. I just wanted the public to know.
Is that the West Goshen seal?
I don't think it has a seal on it, no.
Sign.
It has a West Goshen Township sign, it has a map of West Goshen Township, things like that. So I didn't know if there was anything that the board could do to make it clear for more
That's
clear.
not a government-sanctioned social media website.
And I also wondered, in addition to that, with regard to your social media, number 5 on the agenda, how you're going to go about getting West Goshen Township page when that title is clearly taken by someone else.
Exactly. Ms. Camp, can you give us any?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would have to look into that. Yeah, I mean, Casey was asking me, what would be ramifications and is there some claim that the township could make? And I think that there probably is.
Well, I do know, because I did investigate this myself, I do know that you can go to Facebook and say that the Facebook page is misrepresenting a person or a government entity. So you can put that complaint into Facebook and see what happens. But I think that would need a motion by the board in order for Mr. Lalonde or Derek Davis to act.
But I just want to mention, if we're going to do that, you have to make sure we do that across the board. About a month ago, we had a complaint about another organization that seemingly seems to be part of our township, one of our departments. And it's clearly not, and it was confusing. So I think we have to watch before we proceed. The issue about the social media, we should have the domain name clearly in our, as far as our property. I mean, usually you have your westgoshen.org. I'm assuming we have a license.
We do it. Yep.
The Facebook page does link to westgoshen.org.
So is it a link to, so if I do westgoshen.org, that Facebook page is going to come on?
No, I mean from the Facebook page, it lists westgoshen.org as the website.
So with the work that's being done by the Rooney Group, Dandelion Digital is their company.
Sure.
I thought we were developing a Facebook page for the township through that process.
Correct.
Okay, so there are other organizations that may have already
been utilizing some aspect. Okay.
That's what it appears to me.
So maybe we should reach out. If we, do you have information that can tell us? Is it just West Goshen's
operating
on Facebook?
I have no idea.
Kristen, have you seen the Facebook page?
I have not.
Okay, I think we should take a look
Yeah,
at it.
sure,
before.
we will. We'll look into the
And
issues.
the one if you've identified another, we should probably have that looked at too.
Well, I've talked to that, and I think we're working on that.
Okay.
I don't want to speak out of school, but that was something that was brought up at me, so I think we're looking at it. But one thing is, we haven't much about First Amendment rights.
Sure.
Speaking, so I think we should have our.
Definitely, there's all kinds of legal issues involved, and I don't want to speak off the top of my head without having looked at that site and understanding it. And it's probably a special area of the law that, you know, intellectual property, things like that, so.
So I would advise having the solicitor take a look at it.
Sure.
See what she
I
finds there.
would make that motion that we instruct our solicitor.
I'll second that.
Okay, I couldn't hear your motion, Mr. Cornell.
To authorize our solicitor to
Solicitor
look
to
into
look
it.
into it.
Yeah. Sure. Any public comment? Yes, Mr. Casey, come to the podium, please. Thank you at this time.
I'm surprised by what I just heard. First of all, this is a First Amendment issue, social media issue. This complaint is a politically motivated complaint, something that this board should have no stance on at all. It should not show favoritism. Members of this board do know who was running that page before they were elected, which surprises me to hear that is now in question. Number two, you know, when you're dealing with First Amendment, and when it comes to, if I choose before you guys get the opportunity to go and get westgoshen.org as a domain name, it's mine. I own it. There's nothing you can do about it. So why waste taxpayer money investigating, looking into a legal issue that you have no chance at winning? This presentation and what we're talking about for social media, all the township simply needs to do, call their Facebook page, the official West Goshen Township Facebook page. And that's it. Case closed. The notion that the disclaimer was not in place is not true. That disclaimer was in place. It has never been viewed as an official township website or Facebook page. And speaking as someone who I have made clear to members of this board that I, as a private citizen, have been investigated by this board and its solicitor's office regarding social media. Unless somebody is making threats of bodily harm or what have you, we cannot, as a society and as a governmental board, start to investigate citizens and what they're putting on social media unless it's damaging or making terroristic threats. And that's something that the chief would be looking into, because that's a criminal matter. This board cannot engage in this kind of behavior, looking into a private citizen again. In 2016, it happened to me twice. And I did nothing about it. The legal ramifications for this board, looking into a First Amendment issue, you're asking for a lot of trouble that the taxpayers don't deserve. Thank you.
May I answer that?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I think you might have misunderstood where I'm coming from. For the very reason that, as you heard me say, First Amendment right, I want to make sure before we contact Facebook and we ask Facebook to file a complaint against this Facebook page, before this board takes any action like that, that's why I want our solicitor to take a look at this Facebook page and those concerns that you're talking about, First Amendment. I saw the page myself. I saw a disclaimer when I brought it up. So I don't think there's an issue. There's similar, unfortunately, there's worse examples out there of Facebook pages or websites that mislead people. I feel confident that this Facebook page, as it stands, what I've just seen, I saw it tonight, I looked it up tonight, has a disclaimer that's right there saying this is not the official township page. So how you can shut somebody down with those First Amendment concerns, I don't think you can. But I want our solicitor to look at it because there was a motion that was being contemplated about actually taking action and going to Facebook and complaining. So that's why I want our solicitor to look at it. So no one's taking action to go into anyone's, First Amendment right issues here. I want to make sure that this is just cleared up. Generally speaking, I had a talk with township management about this. I have received several complaints from all political sectors about people handing out literature during township meetings. I'm getting these complaints from every political corner that you could imagine. This is not the place to be politicking. Clear and simple. We will look at any Facebook page that is misleading or that seems to promote any type of political activity where someone might wrongfully take our identity, whatever the proper term is on that, I don't know. But I want to make it clear, and I would ask the chairwoman possibly to have this on a discussion item if we keep getting these complaints, that we just make some type of blanket ruling that politics just does not take place here at these meetings. We're supposed to be totally neutral when it comes to these meetings. So that means no handing out campaign literature on township property or cards or whatever the case might be. And we'll have Ms. Camp look into this Facebook issue and go from there.
But my point, if I may, is for this board to do that, you could be violating the First Amendment and 14th Amendment rights of that individual who owns that page. Is that a fight that this board wants to put the taxpayers into?
To have the solicitor just look at the page that we're talking about?
Unless...
I don't think so. I mean,
you
if
as a
you
board
take action after that, then we have
We're not going to engage in a conversation. Please finish your comment,
Sure, I know.
Mr. Casey. We're not going to engage in a conversation about this issue. We are taking our responsibility seriously that we need to ensure that our residents are not misled by Facebook pages that seem to appear to be related to us. And that is our responsibility to clarify that going forward, as you've also stated. And Mr. Pielli's point of view is also very valid.
You hear a complaint, you hear a complaint, you check it out. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to take action. There was action that was being contemplated just a little while ago. I suggested, hey, wait a minute, let's check this thing out first before any action is contemplated. That's all. There's nothing illegal. There's no infringement on anyone's constitutional rights for a township solicitor to look into a Facebook page or a website that's being alleged is pirating the identity of the township. That's all she's doing. She's investigating. She's not infringing on any rights. There's no Fourth Amendment rights. There's no First Amendment rights. If she was to turn around and advise the board to take action, then you might have a forum because action's being taken against the person. I don't think it's going to get that far. But because there's a complaint from this fine, a citizen will take a look at it. That's what I would suggest.
To authorize the solicitor to go, yes.
To
All right, so
investigate.
investigate, advise back to the board with the legal issues involved. Yes, okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, item number 17, discussion of additional constable services for West Goshen Township.
Yes, we received 2 additional resumes to add to our stable of Mr. Rancheller, who was added last month for constable services. We have 2 names. Mr. Bailey forwarded them to us, Michael Balsama and Doug Castaldi, as capable constables in case we need constable service. The chief needs it as well.
We have currently 1 constable. That constable's sick, that constable's on vacation, or that constable's away. I think it's a good idea to have several backup constables. Personally vouch both in as far as warrants, criminal warrants. These 2 are exceptional constables, very experienced. They're licensed and certified. weapons, and civil too. I've actually used them in civil cases where they've gone into some areas in Philadelphia that most constables don't want to go, but they got the job done. So I think they're good constables. I recommend them to be on the list of approved constables.
So the previous constable signed an agreement with the township. Will these two constables be signing an agreement?
We'll reach out if the board so chooses. We will reach out to them and bring those back at the February 19th week.
The one in there?
Okay, so this is a vote as well?
It can be. You can authorize me to reach out to them to have a agreement. Yes. Yeah, resume, everything that was attached to the last application agreement. So,
Okay, do we have a motion to move forward?
And I'll second it.
Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, item number 18, discussion and possible approval of financial security agreement and establishment of construction escrow in the amount of $15,000 for the 901 Little Shiloh Road subdivision project by Glenn M. White Land Company, Inc.
Yeah, I actually don't have a copy of this. I'm assuming this is a development that you've approved, and under the municipality's planning code, if there are certain public improvements or quasi-public improvements that the engineer believes money needs to be escrowed, you can require the developer to post 110% of the cost of those improvements. Once the improvements are completed, they're inspected, and the money is asked to be released. That's what this, they're proposing to post a letter of credit in the amount of $611,300.35.
Motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Nico and Mr. Canal. Any public comment? Ms. Stewart, please come to the podium.
Yes, as Ms. Camp just mentioned, the actual agreement is for financial security of $611,000, $301.35. So I think the agenda item needed to reflect that the construction escrow with the required letter of credit be attached and in the township's hands before the board would approve this agreement?
Everything's here, yeah.
Okay.
And this is a standard financial security agreement, is a standard document that establishes what the amount of the escrow is and establishes that the developer must build a plan pursuant to your ordinances in a good and workmanlike manner. It establishes the procedure for release of the escrow and what the engineer's responsibilities are in terms of inspecting the improvements and when they're allowed to release the escrow. So the money is there to guarantee that the work is completed pursuant to your plan and pursuant to your ordinances. So those documents are here, and we do have the letter of credit from Bryn Mawr Trust in the amount of the escrow that is approved by Mr. Craig.
Okay, great. That's fine. Do you understand, though, the agenda item is misleading because it's showing a construction escrow in the amount of $15,000, where the construction escrow is actually for $611,000, that this $15,000 that's listed on the agenda is for professional fees. Thank you. I just want to make sure the board is aware of that. Thanks.
Okay, last item, any additional public comment?
I don't think it, was there a vote on that?
They're about to.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I'm rushing things along here. Okay, so we had a first and a second motion. All in favor? Aye. Okay, now agenda item 19. Any additional public comment? Yes, please come forward. We'll ask you to provide your name. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Jana Nesselrode. I'm a professor in the Department of Criminal Justice at Westchester University. I've lived in West Goshen Township for well over 30 years and actually served on the initial West Goshen Recycling Committee when we started here. I love this township, and I'm having a bit of a problem that I'm hoping you can help me with. I've been in contact several times with Derek Davis, and he's been very helpful to me. I have a neighbor who heats part of his house by burning wood, and we have other neighbors that do that too. This particular neighbor isn't very good at it, and he fouls the air with wood smoke. He burns wet wood, unseasoned wood, wood that's not given enough air. The wood smolders and produces a lot of air. You can take pictures of this smoke around our house. It's so thick that we can't keep it out of our house much of the time during the winter, and he burns a lot. So my husband, who is here with me, and I have both had respiratory issues over the winters when they're burning, and we communicated with them asking them to either switch to a low-emission wood-burning stove or to gas. I've offered to pay for that for them, thousands of dollars. They rejected my offers, and we have begged them to find a way just to reduce the amount of smoke they're producing without success. As I got into research and spoke with my own doctors about the toxic effects of wood smoke, what I've learned is pretty astonishing, and it's that wood smoke is 12 times more toxic than secondhand cigarette smoke. So it kind of reached a peak the last year when I was diagnosed with cancer, and my oncologist is very concerned about the amount of smoke I'm breathing inside my own house. I can't keep it out. So I have written to Derek, and I think he's supplied copies to you. I did a lot of research on this, and whether it can help me or not is almost a secondary consideration now, but I'm thinking about the health of all the residents of the township. We are in a cancer epidemic. The American Lung Association gives Chester County an F in air quality. It's not just respiratory diseases that are rising in Chester County, but also cancer rates, and my oncologist is very alarmed about it. So I have asked you to consider passing an ordinance that wouldn't ban wood burning, but would require residents to burn responsibly. There are ways to burn wood that produce much less smoke. In fact, if you use an EPA-certified wood stove, according to its directions, you will be measuring particulate output in terms of grams per hour rather than pounds per hour of toxins. And so I have two neighbors who have died of cancer who are directly downwind from this particular neighbor. I don't want to be the third one. So I'm asking you to consider an ordinance that will allow us to regulate the amount of smoke residents can produce, because it's easy to burn cleanly. It's just those who don't burn cleanly, to regulate that and either to fine them or to require them to change their habits so that they do not endanger the health of their neighbors and the other residents in the township. We've considered moving, but we could be next to another neighbor who's doing the same thing. So unless there's some kind of ordinance in place to protect us, there's nowhere that's really safe. And it's not just to protect me and my family anymore, it's to protect all of us in this age of more pollution. When I researched other ordinances, it was...
For 1 moment, we have a 3-minute.
Oh, sorry, 3-minute rule.
I'm going to grant you an extra 2 minutes. Just to give you a sense of that, we would want you to go ahead and finish.
Thank you. I'm sorry I did to do this. I went and researched other ordinances. The one I proposed is a simple one to enforce that looks at smoke opacity. It's a simple thing for it to be enforced. It's a simple thing for residents to know whether they are in violation of the ordinance or not. It doesn't require any complicated enforcement. And so the one I suggested I thought was the simplest and most straightforward, and I'm just asking you to consider it, if you will.
I think excuse me.
I just have a quick question. With your research with these ordinances, do you know of any local townships or municipalities that might have enforced that perhaps we could take a look at? Or
I didn't research enforcement. I researched how the ordinances were worded.
Well, that's what I meant. I mean, do you know of any local municipalities?
Not local ones. Most of these are out west, where they have a much bigger problem out west. In fact, in some of them you can only burn every other day of the week or every odd day or even day because the smoke is so bad. But obviously that wouldn't be suggested here. But the one I found that I cited in my letter was the one that measured opacity. And that's what the Department of Environmental Protection does too for the state of Pennsylvania, only they do it for industry, not for residents. But they look at opacity to see if you're in violation. You're welcome.
I know that Mr. Davis has been interested in picking this up and moving forward with it, so I think we will take this into consideration for activity in the next month. I know we talked a little bit about it on the phone, and I am concerned about it, and just given what you said in terms of where the exhaust from the stove is coming, it basically goes right into your bedroom windows and most of your house. So it does sound like it's a concern that we need to look into for the entire residence.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to work with Ms. Camp to see if she can do some research.
Yeah, there may
conjunction
already
with
be a
them.
section of your ordinance that it's there in prohibition of. There's general performance standards that I think deal with fumes and whatnot. We'll have to take a look at that first. I know we also have to take a look at DEP regulations to make sure that we're not preempted from doing similar statutes. So
There's also a nuisance ordinance that talks about
I was just
stuff.
about to ask that question, nuisance angle.
yeah, we can look at that. Nuisance cases can be difficult.
The general opinion was that did not have enough teeth from some different opinions, which is why a wood burning ordinance would be appropriate if the board so inclined. But the nuisance ordinance just did probably not have enough teeth in this instance.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Do we need to authorize Kristen to make that?
If you want to make that motion.
Okay. Can I have a motion to authorize Kristen to look into ordinances associated with the burning stove and opacity issues? Thank you. Can I have a second?
Also.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment? You got two? Please come forward, sir.
Well, just on this motion, not general public.
Oh.
Okay.
Did you have a comment on this motion?
I just have
Okay.
The Clean Air Act does look into particulate matters, and that is a federal level thing that we could consider bringing in down into the municipal level. We also have noise ordinances and other nuisance things that if they extend beyond your border, that you can be cited for, a la the Sunoco pump station issue with the noise a year or two ago. So I would suggest looking into the Clean Air Act, trying to incorporate some of its particulate matter, and then the township zoning officer or whatever, anyone can get a measuring device and actually go to the property and measure the air quality on site. So.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? We have a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Not sure if that rises to the level, but okay. We'll take it. Okay.
All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Oh,
No,
we have more comments? Oh, more comments, sorry, I thought we were done. Beg your pardon. 3 minutes.
Hi, yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Just two quick outstanding issues. I think this was an oversight. Mr. Lalonde responded to a right to know request November 21st, taking a 30-day extension that would take us to December 21st. I still have not received a response, but like I said, I think it was the holidays, so if I could just...
It was not the holidays, that was with our previous solicitor, so I'll have to bring that up with our new solicitor.
Yeah, that's fine. Can I just leave that with Ms.?
I'll give her the official response.
Okay,
But thank
great.
you.
And then also, I wrote an email to the board months ago asking for minutes to be amended back, might have been in 2017, I forget, it was about the outstanding, I was quoted as saying there was an outstanding $8,000 fire hydrant fee, which was a figure that I never uttered, and I had asked for those meeting minutes to be amended, and that still has not happened. So, do I need to just forward that email request as a reminder?
I think we'd have to look in to see whether or not we can amend the amendments with board members who are no longer on the board.
Yeah,
These were decided before Mary and I were here.
Yeah. I have a letter from Aqua's attorney that states that the fire hydrant bills were paid, presumably by the township for all those years. So I had brought, the first time we received a bill from Aqua for our homeowners association was for about $109. And so that is the bill I had, and I presented to the board asking the township to pay. But the minutes reflect that I asked the board to pay an $8,000 outstanding fire hydrant fee. That's just plain false. I didn't say it. I sent the clip of the video. I mean, it's inaccurate. It needs to be changed and reflect what I said.
Would it suffice if the minutes from this meeting indicate that? That you're disputing what those minutes say and you believe that they should be, that they need to be corrected, so that would actually appear then in today's minutes? I think that's an appropriate way to handle it, given that there's, well, I don't know the background in terms of when you first brought it and what a board's about, but if the board took action and said we're not interested in doing that, then that note stands. But that's not to say that this conversation should be memorialized in today's minutes.
The board never took action and said, no, we're not going to amend the minutes. So, I mean,
Did we vote on it? Just refresh my memory, Margie, did we vote on it to say, fine, we're going to change it, and we didn't change it?
No, I had just requested numerous times and then sent a very direct email saying it's, I mean.
Would it be, as Kristen suggested, perhaps that we put it on the record now? That's not what you said.
No, I believe the minutes themselves need to be changed. I mean, it makes, it's a poor reflection on me. I would never ask the township to pay an outstanding bill of $8,000 that, I mean, there was never an outstanding bill.
The only way it would be appropriate for those minutes to be amended is if the 3 board members who were on the board then agree and recollect that's not what was stated and are willing to then change the minutes. I don't think that the 2 members on the board today that weren't members then would have the ability to vote on that. So it's up to the 3 members that were sitting on the board in 2017 and whether you have any recollection of what was specifically stated or not.
I have a recollection of you bringing this up vaguely in the past. I recall you bringing it up.
May I just
forward? Were we recording back then? Okay, and you can verify this on recording.
Yeah, I believe I sent the video clip to you, or a transcript of what I said, and it was completely.
I see this is important to you.
It's very important.
Gerald, I suggest that you send that email again with that clip, and then the 3 board members that were on at the time to take a look at it, and we could address it perhaps next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Is that right, Madam Chairwoman?
Thank you, Mr. Pillay, for your solution. Yes, sir, please come forward.
Jim Hutchison.
Thank you.
We were here at the overlay meeting in December, and there was talk about a traffic task force that was being organized, and I was just wondering what the progress was and how we make sure we get on that task force.
Well, at this point in time, we have had some discussions with individually with board members. I think there is some interest in evaluating what that task force would look like, and evaluate what the scope of the task force would be in terms of looking not only in areas that were brought to our attention during the overlay meeting, but the entire township. And it's going to take some time for us to identify an appropriate structure and a way to recruit our residents to participate. But it is something we're definitely thinking about and talking about.
So will this be brought up at the next meeting, or do you have any idea of a timeline?
The township's currently updating the comprehensive plan. That has a lot of data, and you were at the last meeting, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Our consultants created a bunch of maps for pedestrian, bicycles, everything. So I think once the comp plan gets close to finalization, I think that should be in the next couple of months. We should be done in March, April, hopefully. So once we get to that point, I think that's a good opportunity to start discussions of another task force.
Well, and I would also assume, excuse me, I would also assume that the overlay work that's being done now with the information
information that we learned would be requested of the university with respect to traffic counts and some of that very important data also would be valuable. I don't know what you talk about before you know actually some of the facts. So I think we're working towards making sure that information is available too.
Okay. Thank you.
For coming again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, please come to the podium.
Robert Project, West Goshen Township resident. Mr. Paelli, at last month's Board of Supervisors meeting, you stated that there was a disagreement between the complaints that I have been making and what your staff has been telling you, and that they have been telling you a different story. Your staff and any supervisor that have talked to anyone about this matter have had years to explain their version of the facts. This year they have had an opportunity since June to give their version of the facts. No one has come forward with any explanation that would refute my claims. Please enlighten me to what their version of the facts are. Please explain why for 30 years there was no snow throwback until one incident happened on February 14th, 2007, and I complained to Ray Halverson and he threatened me that it may happen again, and it has since then. Also, I would like an explanation of why, if township policy is curb-to-curb clearing of the roadways to ensure the drains are open to avoid any potential flooding, that I have numerous pictures and videos that showed this policy has repeatedly been violated.
Give your response. I've already gone down this road with you.
No, we haven't. We haven't had any public discussion about it.
I have seen no proof from you. I've had discussions.
Well, then what is their
And
disagreement? What is their disagreement
The
about?
next significant, the disagreement is that you're saying that this could be avoided. They're saying it can't in order to properly plow the roads.
Well, how did they avoid it for 30 years?
You know, it's funny, you say this happened in 2007.
February 14th.
I got elected 2015, I've never seen you till...
I was at 3 meetings in 2014 and the board was totally dismissive of my claim at the time.
I'm not saying that you have a complaint that snow is being thrown on your property or your sidewalk. What I am saying is that they've told me, and you could ask the streets department again, they're here to answer your questions, that the proper way to plow that road causes that snow to land where you're complaining.
And how come it hasn't happened to any of the other residents on Sylvan Avenue?
To me all
Sylvan
the
Road?
time.
Pardon?
I have a sign in my front yard, it gets knocked over all the time. It happens to me all the time.
Well, I stated before, I talked to PennDOT people, and I showed a driver how far back the snow was thrown, which was approximately 15 feet, my tree line 17 feet. And I asked him, he's a driver for PennDOT for years, how fast a truck would have to be going in order to throw snow back that far. He said at least 40 miles an hour. But nobody seems to want to take this upon themselves. They just want to try to put the blinders on and forget about it.
Well, I think we've also responded to you that Mr. Pielli and I also have offered to go through the snow plow in your neighborhood. And would like to include you if you think it would be valuable to you for you to see how it actually works. Because this is not an issue specific to you. This is an issue specific to the way that we have to clear the streets. And they're not doing things purposely to make your life more difficult. They're doing what they need to do to make sure that the public roads are open and safe and cleared. I know from speaking with Mr. Bartolami that he's made offers to you to come and clear your sidewalks for you when this happens, and that you have declined his assistance.
No, I spoke to him about that, and I told him he was 11 years too late.
Well, sir, we're all 11 years too late.
But that doesn't change the fact that, and especially about the curb-to-curb thing, that doesn't change the fact that township policy has been violated repeatedly. I have pictures and videos that will show that, and nobody seems interested.
So my suggestion and my recommendation is going to be that once and for all, we will document an answer for you so that you understand the policy that they have to follow in order to ensure that the streets are properly plowed. And if that's something that you still disagree with, there's nothing we can do about it. We have to maintain the safety of the streets.
given what they know as the professional requirements on how to do that.
That is not the problem. Once the 2 lanes are open, there's no emergency, and they could go 10 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour, and not throw back like they did for 30 years.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing your comment with us tonight. Any other public comments? Yes, Mr. Casey. I don't see anyone else's hand besides yours.
I was wondering, I've asked several times over the past 2 years about a task force regarding pipelines through the community. Where is the board anywhere with regards to this initiative? I think I asked about it in December as well.
It's my understanding that we have not discussed a task force for a pipeline.
Not for all pipelines throughout the county, and based on other requests in the past regarding environmental issues and tonight's earlier discussion regarding air quality environmental issues, I think it would be a great idea for the township to have an environmental and pipeline information task force. Thank you.
No other comment? All in favor? Aye.